do have a story about a shop near me. I will not be exposing them, but I will be exposing their actions. Welcome to Creatively Processed, the place for creative entrepreneurs to come together and discuss the upsides and downfalls of being your own boss. I am a hot mess. We're not thriving. I just filmed like 30 minutes of the pod and realized that I did not start the audio recording. Oh my goodness. Okay, well, let's start from scratch, I guess. Let's get into it. For today's episode, we're going to go over the weekly review as per usual. We're gonna talk about my goals, and then we're gonna dive into the topic discussion. Okay, the topic discussion today, we're gonna be entering the world of B2B sales. If you don't know what B2B stands for, it stands for business to business. There's also D2C, which is direct to consumer, which is what most people focus on, especially when they're first starting out, like establishing, a website. We're going to be discussing how to get your business, your products, your work into stores. And we're going to be covering the two main ways to do this: consignment and wholesale. Spoiler alert, I do have a preference, and the one I prefer I will be talking about a lot more. To finish off the episode, we're going to be doing some journal prompts, and honestly, I love the journal prompts this week because I think you can really apply all the things that I talked about into your personal business life and do some reflection, because that's important. Okay, weekly review. What the heck did I do last week? For work, I made some new art I'm really excited about. I haven't shared it yet, so I'm not going to talk too much about it yet. But once it's done and shared, I will discuss it and kind of talk about the meaning behind it and all that jazz. I've also been exploring digital downloads, specifically when it comes to things like coloring books. I'm working on a digital download coloring book. The cool thing about digital downloads, once you make it once and you upload it and embed your links and everything like that, you never have to do it again. I'm all about the passive income streams, but I don't know too much about digital download products yet. Once I do, I'll talk more about it, but I have a lot of research to do. And one more thing that I did for my business was some store searching, which I'm going to talk more about later in the episode, so you kind of get an idea of what I mean by that. For media this week, I'm still on Atypical. I don't know why it's taking me so long. It's only 4 seasons long. Like, I should be done with that by now. I also watched some of The Office. I'm not like a huge diehard Office fan. It's just kind of soothing because it's pretty calm. For books this week, I did read some of The Sweetest Revenge. I don't remember who it's by. It's like a romance book. I don't know. I'm not super intrigued by it, so I don't want to dive into it because I don't even know how good it's going to be. I'll let you know when I finish it what I thought of it. I've also been listening to some audiobooks, which is really cool because my library is partnered with the app Libby. It seemed like a lot of libraries had access to this, but essentially it's an online library where you can rent out audiobooks and ebook. I didn't really listen to much music last week. I listened to some Taylor Swift because my stepdaughter likes it, but that was about it. Instead of music last week, podcasts kind of took over, and YouTube and audiobooks. It's kind of weird because I love music. Oh, I forgot something. One other piece of media that I watched was the first episode of the new season of American Idol. I know it's like a dead show, and I feel like every time I see a TikTok about American Idol, the top comment is like, is the show still going? It is, okay? And I don't know, when I was a kid, I loved American Idol so much, and obviously now being older, you can tell that things are scripted and just like cheesy and weird, but I still love it for the music, if nothing else. I love it because it tells me that spring is coming, because normally by the end of the season it's like everything's in full bloom. It just gets me excited. I love spring. I'm ready for spring. I woke up this morning and all of the birds were chirping. It was the best. My habits for the week. I've decided I'm going to do habits and obsessions. I think they go together. So the first thing is drinking water. I drank so much water last week and I feel very hydrated. I've also been obsessed with grapefruit. and cuties. I love grapefruit. I always eat it in the winter because that's when it's in season and delicious. So I've been eating a lot of those. But the cuties recently have been so tiny. I'm talking like teensy weensy. Okay, but they're just so packed with flavor. I can't even describe to you how good these cuties are. I'm gonna accidentally consume too much vitamin C and turn into an orange, and that's fine by me. That's all I've got for the weekly review. Now for my goals for this upcoming week. I want to keep doing my store searching. Again, I will discuss more about that later. I need to draft a new cold call and cold email, which is another thing I will be talking about later. I also want to look into Skillshare. Anybody listening, please tell me if you have had an experience with Skillshare. I've just been interested in it because I love to learn things, and I think it'd be so much fun to learn some new skills or learn more about the skills I already have. With a platform like Skillshare, I feel like people don't hold back as much as they do in YouTube because they're monetizing more off of the Skillshare stuff. I would love to see what it's all about. I would also love to do some more wedding preparation because I feel like I'm so far behind. We started off strong. I needed to get it together. And lastly, I want to make more smoothies, because I made a smoothie last night with my stepson and it was so good. And I love smoothies. They just make me feel good and they're delicious. All right, it is that time where we get into the nitty gritty, if you know what I mean. It's time for the topic discussion. First, let's go over some terminology for those of you who might have absolutely no idea what I'm about to be talking about. There's two terms that you need to understand before we go into this, and they are consignment and wholesale. If you already know what those are, amazing, wonderful. Some people don't, so I'm gonna explain it. Consignment sales are essentially putting your items in the store and giving a portion of the sales to the business that is hosting your products. The other term is wholesale. Wholesale selling is where you sell your items at 50% off the retail value to the store owners, and then they resell it in their store. The most popular for smaller creatives is consignment. The most popular for larger, more like flourishing businesses is wholesale. Now, let me be very clear. I do have a favorite. I'm not going to lie. However, my preference and my way of thinking is not the same as everyone else's. So I'm still going to talk about the other things. I won't lie. It's going to be biased, but I'm just going to be so brutally honest with you, because when it comes to the two different styles of selling, one of them is just like, it's just a no-brainer in my head for what I would do. So I want to explain my perspective, and then obviously if you have a different way of thinking, please feel free to talk to me about it, because I would love to be swayed. I love to be convinced to think another way, but this is my perspective currently and what it's been for a while, and I'm quite passionate about it. If anybody wants to like bring me back to earth after this, that's fine. Let's talk about consignment first. Here's the story with consignment. Here's how it normally goes. You make a connection with the business owner. You figure out that they're willing to have your items in their shop. Then you take yourself and your items to the shop and you either set them up or drop them off, and then they'll take out their portion, send you what you make, blah blah blah. I can see where consignment would seem a little more appetizing, because with wholesale you're cutting your price in half. I understand that that's kind of scary. I do think consignment can be worth it if the percentage they're taking out is, I would say, under 25%. That might sound a little bit stingy, but I'll explain why. To be very clear, I currently sell in a consignment based environment, and I also sell wholesale. I have done both. I love the consignment shop. I'm only in one. If that doesn't tell you how I feel about it, then I don't know what will. The consignment shop I'm in currently is a cat rescue where I got my second born son. So obviously I want to be connected with them because I love them. I was already kind of like affiliated with them and sending them donations and whatever. Happy to do that. Happy to give them money from my sales. I was happy to do that without being in their store. store. But also, they don't charge a huge fee to the artists that have their stuff in there, which is super nice. And they also had a contract to sign, and they keep track of inventory, and they're very communicative. Those are good signs of a very solid store that you could do consignment with. But the biggest thing that I do get concerned about if exploring another consignment shop would be theft. As an artist who cannot be there to defend my own honor, that worries me. Obviously, theft happens. When I've done pop-ups, I've had plenty of things stolen. It is what it is. Karma will get them. I'm not concerned about it. But what I'm concerned about more so is if there isn't a theft policy set up for the store that you're doing consignment in, the store owner could have the ability to be a little bit sneaky. If there isn't a theft policy with a store that you're considering doing consignment with, don't even go with it. I have a friend who's in a lot of consignment shops and she does really well, but she makes sure that there is a theft policy where if something of hers is stolen, her and the shop split that cost in half, so it's not all on the artist. So just make sure that there's a theft policy so that both parties are held accountable for the loss. Now, consignment compared to wholesale seems a little bit more appetizing because of the higher profit. Typically, you can make more money theoretically in consignment than you can in wholesale. I say theoretically because, for one, you don't know that all of your items are going to sell. It could be sitting there for months. You have no idea how it's going to work. Number two, you have to be responsible for that inventory. You have to drive there and replenish it. You have to take care of it. And your time equals money. Yes, it does. Okay? Take into consideration how much time you're spending driving there, taking care of your inventory when you're there, driving back home. Those are also factors that you should take into consideration, because with wholesale, you just ship it and send it and it's over. That's kind of where I'm at. I don't love consignment because I think it could be shady. I do have a story about a shop near me. I will not be exposing them, but I will be exposing their actions, but not saying their name because that's not who I am. There's just some really shady stuff that's gone on, and I think that artists need to be aware of it. You gotta protect your peace. So let's talk about this really shady store that I just do not vibe with. I haven't from day one. This store is not necessarily local to me because I'm kind of out of the city. It's in the city nearest me. This store is very vocal on the social media. They haven't had the best run as a business, and they're not letting anyone forget about it. And it's honestly kind of embarrassing. As a business owner myself, I have had periods that felt like it was the end, like I wasn't going to be able to continue, like I needed to get a terrible job and hate my life again. Did I ever once make a TikTok for the public that said, my business is failing, and if you don't order something, I won't be able to pay my bills? Absolutely not. You will never catch me dead saying anything like that, because it's not your problem. The success of a business is absolutely nobody's problem or responsibility except for the owner of that business. They're very much publicly failing. From what I could see the last time I went into that store, the majority of their products are consignment products from different artists around the area. I would not want my stuff in there because I don't want to be associated with that. I don't want to be associated with this dying business that nearly threatens their following to order stuff from their shop. That's not cool with me. That's not cool with anyone. That's weird. Very, very weird. Let me tell you a couple more weird things about this store. First of all, do you think that they have a theft policy? They absolutely do not. I have a friend who had stuff in there, and somehow, some way, it came up missing. Was it chalked up to theft? I don't really know. It doesn't really matter because the store owner wasn't taking responsibility for it. Now, knowing everything you know about the store owner, would it really be that shocking to hear that they were pocketing it and writing it off as theft? No, it wouldn't be shocking at all, especially considering they take a 45% consignment fee from the artists that they support in their shop. 45% is hefty. hefty. It's 5% away from a wholesale price, which at that point, you might as well take your stuff out of the shop and sell it wholesale anywhere else so you can actually make the money and not have to worry about driving to the store and restocking and picking up your check and X, Y, and Z. So the vibe of the store is just very unorganized. Very, very unprofessional, not super cool, fun, and funky. The other thing that I don't really like that I've seen with other shops as well, not just this one, they're not picky at all with who comes in and asks to sell their art. They basically let anybody in with whatever they do, which to me just sounds like a cash grab. Like, they're like, yeah, just put anything you want in my store and I'll take 45%. If I were to ever have a store, it would have a vibe. Obviously, the vibe is important. For instance, let's say I was selling hippie clothes in this hippie store that I hippie made. Do you think I would, ever sell car parts there? No, absolutely not. And that's how I look at it. Like, you're gonna say yes to absolutely anybody because they're a local artist. Cool, but that's not even like their niche. It was like a crystal gift shop store. Like I said, the owner had been posting videos about my small business is failing. If you don't order something, I'm not gonna be able to pay my bills. And then they finish out with local artists won't have a place to put their art, which wasn't like, don't weaponize that. First of all, don't make yourself a victim on a public platform. For two, don't associate other people with your failure. That's not fair to them. They can find other places to put their things. So that's basically that. It's just a hot mess. And hearing about all of that and all of the horror stories of my friends who've experienced working with that shop honestly just turned me off so much to the idea of consignment. I just have no interest in it. Maybe that's because I watch a lot of Shark Tank. I just think that I would never want to be caught in a situation like that. You just want to make sure if you're diving into a consignment situation that you're researching the store you're getting into in a business sense, because there is good business and there is shady business, and we don't want to get into shady business. Okay, now that I've babbled on about consignment, let's talk about wholesale. Wholesale, you guessed it, is my favorite route, and it's something that I've done a lot of research on. Let's talk about the great things about wholesale. The first one is that you made a sale. As soon as the store shows interest in having your stuff in there and places an order, you've made money. You don't have to wait. Once the stuff gets in the store, you've got it in your bank account. Additionally, the responsibility to upkeep the inventory, take care of the products is not yours. Send it and forget it. Another thing that we like is that when a business places a wholesale order of your items, it's because they actually have interest in your stuff and believe that it has potential to be successful in their store. Next, theft is not your problem. Once you send it, if something gets stolen, okay, and not your responsibility anymore. You made the sale, you sent it, it's not your issue. I also think wholesale is just easier to juggle because you're doing it sale by sale, and it's essentially just like an online order that you get from your website or Etsy, whatever platform you use. But maybe it's a bigger order. But let me be a myth buster real quick. A lot of people have the assumption that if you do wholesale, you have to sell a bunch of units. That's not necessarily true. You can do that, but personally, I don't do that. Let's talk about some tips. Hopefully, they'll help you to be a little bit more organized with that and ready to take on the step of being a B2B salesman. The first thing that you need to do is you need to create your line of wholesale products. All businesses are different. For instance, one of my besties makes candles. She makes incense as well, which I'm actually currently burning and always burning because it makes me feel alive. So she's basically duplicating the same thing over and over with her different scents. So it's an easier business to put into a wholesale situation. It's not, I don't want to make it sound super simple because it's not. The woman is actually a superhero, all of the things that she does, and very inspiring. And I love talking business with her because she's just so smart and successful, and I want to be her when I grow up. That being said, it's a lot different if you're making one-of-one jewelry pieces or one-of-one paintings. Those types of things are a little bit harder, but I do have some advice because I went through through it myself. Let's say you're creating this line and you were like me where you're making one-to-one jewelry pieces. You want to go through all of the things you make, find the products that are the most profitable. When I say profitable, I'm also talking about taking into consideration your labor. A lot of artists fail to do this and fail to value their worth and abilities as an artist. Don't do that. You deserve to be paid for your work. So please make sure you include that when you're calculating your profit margins. Make sure the materials that you need to have for these products are easily accessible. You could one random day get an order for 200 units of one thing. Are you going to be able to have the materials to fulfill that order? Because it's going to really suck if you miss out on all that money. You want to make sure that all of the things that you need to make these items are on deck. Now, this is if you're doing a made to order situation, which is what I did for jewelry. But if you would rather do something where they're pulling units from your inventory, then that's different. You know, you can set your quantity of things you have and then put those up for sale. But I was the type of person where I would just make it as it came to me. I'm not gonna just make 100 million size for rose quartz rings. Like, that's not gonna happen. I'm just gonna make it as it comes to me. Once you have your most profitable items and you have a resource for materials that are easy to access, especially in a time crunch, then we can move on to the next step, which is making a spreadsheet. Actually, we're gonna make 2 spreadsheets. I have a spreadsheet with all of the states and I have it color coded, so I know the ones that I've already done, the one that I'm in progress with, and I know the ones that I still have to do. I just have all of the states so I can go through and like Google hippie store in Arizona, and then I go through all the hippie stores. Once I find a store that I think will work, I will put it in my other spreadsheet, which is for the stores themselves. I include the name of the store, the location of the store, and the contact information of the store. This process takes a while to build, but it's definitely worth it because then you'll have this huge list of contacts. What I always do is once I've either cold called or cold emailed, I will color code it. So if they weren't interested in my product, or if somebody was interested but not ready to purchase yet, reached out and they didn't respond yet, they would have another color. You know what I mean? So there's just like different color coding systems that you can do to stay organized with that. So once you have all of that done, you're going to want to draft a cold email and a cold call. If you don't know what that means, it's essentially like a sales call or a sales email where you kind of just give your brief background of who you are, what you do, or who your business is and what your business does. Describe the product that you want to sell to them, why you think it'll be good for them, blah, blah, blah. Literally just look it up on YouTube. There's so many different cold email and cold call templates that you can follow and then implement in your own business. Those are the 2 main ways that I communicate, but you can also just walk into the store if it's local. That's what I did with my favorite store ever, Shakedown Street. I just walked in. I was so nervous. I was absolutely terrified, and I walked in with like a bag of random goods that I made, and I was like, hey guys, like I really love this store and I just wanted to see if you like my things. And they were just the best. They were so sweet and welcoming, and they ordered stuff right away, and it was awesome. Let's talk about a platform that you can use for wholesale. If you haven't heard of it by now, it's called Faire. It's Faire Wholesale. And basically what you do is you go in and you can create your catalog for your wholesale line. The cool thing about Faire is all of these stores can see your things. It's public, anyone can see it. So I would suggest that you kind of bulk up your SEO so that people can find you easier. A lot of people don't like about Faire is that there's a commission fee. However, if you are doing your cold emailing and cold calling, if you send them a Faire link, then they can shop from it and you don't have to worry about the commission fee because you got the sale. You found the person. That's why I just think it's important to be a go-getter and reach out as much as possible. But also, you know, I look at it as if somebody places an order and I get a commission fee against my income, it's not a big deal because it's exposure. I wouldn't want to miss an opportunity. If they really like your stuff and they come back, then the commission goes down. Now, a tip that I have for Faire is is to update as much as you can. It's kind of like Etsy, where the more active you are, the more the platform kind of rewards you for being on there so much. I'm terrible at this, but it's just something that I've read about. Like if you're updating every day, if you're logging in every day, that looks really good to their algorithm. But that brings me to my next point, and it's to do your research, because these algorithms and stuff, they are always changing. So it's just better to keep up on them, and it looks better. And one other thing that I really like about Faire is they have a option for people to order a sample, so they can order something smaller, see if they like it before they buy it, which you still get a sale for. Like they pay for the samples, but it's just cool because they can kind of test everything out and see what they like, see what they don't like. It's just good for the store owner, and I feel like a lower amount of commitment is always enticing to people when they're shopping for their inventory. So what happens if you reach out and nobody wants your stuff? It's gonna happen. I'm so sorry. You will get rejected with a cold call and a cold email several times, but you know what? Just keep trying. I guess it's like exposure therapy to rejection. Just keep going. I swear it hurts less after the first 20 times. So maybe stick to cold emailing if that's something that you're really, really uncomfortable with. But it's kind of cool to do cold calls because you just have absolutely no idea what's going on the other end, and you have the opportunity to make somebody's day with your voice. So don't be afraid of it. Give it a go and just be yourself. Who cares? Now, let's say absolutely nobody is showing interest in your things and you don't know what to do. Reflect on what you sell and listen to what the people are saying. For me, I had to make some major adjustments because every time I made a call or an email, it was, oh, we already have a whole bunch of jewelry. We don't need any more. Like, we'll keep you in mind, but we already have a lot of jewelry. Essentially, people were hearing the word jewelry and deterred because, you know, it's so easily accessible and oversaturated or whatever. A lot of the time they didn't even look into what I made because they already had a plentiful amount of it or plentiful access to cheaper versions of it. That made me take a huge step back from wholesale and doing my cold calls and doing my cold emailing because I was like, okay, this isn't working. That was before I decided to switch full time to graphic design. So it was kind of a blessing in disguise, but I'm ready to get back into it, which is why I wanted to make this podcast about it today, because I'm super inspired to get going on it because I've bulked up my Faire catalog quite a bit and I'm ready to get that link out there for people to click and order some stickers. I'm super pumped about it. By the way, I don't know if I said this, but for wholesale, all I sell are stickers currently. There are a couple of other items that I sell exclusively to Shakedown Street that I might add to my wholesale catalog, but for now I've just got stickers, and eventually I would love to get some clothing going, but that's going to be a whole other project. Let's do a quick recap. Make sure you weigh your options and figure out what path is the best for you. Maybe wholesale is just way too much. Maybe your pieces are 1 for 1, or you just can't repeat what you make. That's fine, okay? If you have an interest in selling in a consignment store, that's super awesome. Just, I would advise to tread lightly. Just do your research. It never hurts and it always helps. But if you decide to go the wholesale route, make sure you're getting organized, make your spreadsheet, get over your fear of being rejected. You and your art are not for everybody else. I know that about myself. I'm quite aware that, you know, the guy next door who loves working on trucks and drinking beer, he doesn't want my sticker that says flower power. I'm aware of that. I know that, and that's okay. I think understanding that your stuff isn't for everybody just makes you appreciate the group of people who do like your things and like you so much more. Let's get on to our journal prompts. The first one I've got for you is, what does the perfect store that will carry my products look like? The next one is, what stores should I avoid when store searching? Then, what am I afraid of when it comes to getting my work into retail? And lastly, how will I change those limiting beliefs? If I went too fast for you, I'm going to put the journal prompts in the show notes, so don't even worry. Or if you're watching on YouTube, they're going to be in the description. But that's all I've got for you. Make sure you rate the episode. Make sure you're following along. And do me a favor. If you have a friend who needs to hear some of this advice, will you please send them a link? Let me speak some truth into them. Hopefully they didn't listen to the end because I don't want them to be offended that you did that. That's all. I love you so much, and I will talk at you next week.